Thanks, Jackie. Yep, we're good.
Call this meeting to order. Please rise.
To the flag.
Start off our winter and spring convention.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming this evening, and it's nice to see a big crowd. It doesn't look like we have many of our students coming here for commendations, but I'm hopeful that we have some this evening. We understand there was quite a few conflicts this evening, so this is a time-honored tradition here in Princeton. The board started this many years ago. I don't know if you can recall how many years ago. You know, long as you can remember, but I think the idea was to just acknowledge the great, strong work of our student body, and especially when our students compete at the highest level on the biggest stages in our state and in our country. And we have a long-standing tradition of excellence and Tiger Pride that our students have went out and displayed the Princeton way and made us so proud in so many different ways. And every few months we do bring in students that have competed at the state or the national level, and we honor them. And this evening, we are going to honor some of our wrestlers. Just out of curiosity, do we have any wrestlers in the room? We don't. Okay. Just to acknowledge those folks, we did have. Well, let's see. We had Elena Johnson in girls wrestling, competed at the state level. We had Laura Cole in the girls, and I think it's important to note that girls wrestling is one of the newest sports in the state of Minnesota, and probably I guess growing the fastest. And we've had already in 2 years of existence, we sent students to the state tournament, and we've had place winners already. So we're really proud of them. We had some of our boys compete at the state level as well. Levi Thompson, Kevin Vokey, and that doesn't appear that they're here either, so we'll make sure that we get their certificates. And as it relates to VEX robotics, do we have any robotics competitors in the room? All right.
We went to state. Probably in there.
Well, I will, normally when we have we'll have coaches come and they'll share the certificates, but I'll do my best to share out their names just to acknowledge the students. Weston Bishman in VEX Robotics, Max Umlauf, Nick Hemish, Brant Wolfling, Carter Balzer, Sophia Whitwer, Rachel Brockhouse, Peter Berdeau, Oliver Roberdo, TJ Bridgen, Mick Dudek, Peyton Anderson. Yay! Congratulations. If we don't have any students here, we have time. You want to give a speech? What did you compete in? Tell us.
I compete at the state level for the state and the national invitational level for VEX Robotics. It's a program at Princeton High School where we construct and engineer competitive robots to kind of play a game with other teams. We do it on a team of our own, and we make sure to not only hold ourselves to engineering standards, but we practice building essential soft skills like critical thinking, communication, and overall competing in a sort of communal environment. And just between the enjoyment of building a robot and getting out and seeing other teams have amazing ideas of their own, it's really a valuable experience. As for me, I was the programmer on the team, so I sat at a computer all day and enjoyed myself very much.
Bo Jeffers, Bella Whitwer. Okay, that is robotics. All right, how about speech? For speech? Okay, all right. Kelly Gruber, Peyton Anderson. No wonder he gave such a good speech. Stay up here and when then Emma Posse. Oh, you get your opportunity to give a speech. What was your speech about?
My speech was a debrief speeches, which is basically I take someone else's speech and on that as well as analyze it myself. And I did John's speech to share.
All right, I think because you are only two speech people, let's go ahead and let's bring the board. Do we have more speech? Okay. And then we'll get actually, let me quick run through the FFAers and then we'll have you come up here and we'll take a picture with you and the board, okay? So I'm sorry I'm making you stand up here uncomfortably, okay? But the FFA actually has their big banquet tonight. That's why none of them. And coincidentally, I think quite a few of them were robotics folks too. So none of them were able to come. But we do want to just recognize them. Peter Bordeaux, Sven Storbakken, Ryan Heft, Ty Eichmer, Michelle Reynolds, Nick Hemish, Bella Whitwer, Riley Taylor, Keela Paulson, Morgan Morrow, Lily Gibbs, Elsa Storbakken, Eva Witt, Chloe May, Keela Opsel, and Cameron Philippil. So let's give it up for the FFA. And many of those competed at the national level as well. Okay. So thank you, speech folks. Let's get you up here and let's take a picture.
There's some point in October.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, we'll have the board members get behind you and you can kind of stand in front of them. Go ahead and get right back.
Are we doing that?
I was gonna do my own thing. Okay, thank you.
Good job.
Good job.
Good job. Good job.
All right, I'm good. I see it.
So we will move on to board member committee reports, and we'll start with Eric Stream. We had a policy meeting just before this, and I attended the 8th grade portion of the middle school band concert last week. And it was, I think, a sad night for Mr. Fong as he said goodbye. And but otherwise the concert was Ron? I had agenda planning policy for this meeting. We had the school board scholars banquet.
I have scholar banquet and policy appointments.
Melissa, also at the banquet for the school board scholars. And we also did, and I was at Dollars for Scholars, which is our awards for like scholarships for kids who applied in the community. And we gave out, it was a very long ceremony. We gave out quite a few scholarships. So that was it's really nice to see the community come together for that. I highly recommend it if you don't mind sitting there. I also was at the primary wanted to talk for a second about this. So in regards to the inclusive playground, we've been doing a lot of different fundraising and I'm also on the PTO, so that's kind of where I've fallen in there too. But we did a garage sale, so all the kids brought toys to the school and for like a week, and then they all got to purchase toys on this last Friday, I think it was. And so there was a table, like a quarter table and a 50 cent, 75 and a dollar, and they could each get 3 things. And we kept running out of stuff because the kids were so excited. So like teachers were bringing down their prize. It was so fun. And a lot of the kids came down and asked their teachers if they could come just donate the rest of their money to the playground because they just want to help the other kids. And it's like, I don't know, it's incredibly sweet. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And I don't know how much that is, but it was something, a couple $100 at least. So
Wonder how parents felt.
oh, I'm sure they loved me because when we were getting down to it, I was making like bags and stuff.
I attended the school board scholar banquet also, and had a tiger care own meeting, agenda planning, and then yesterday I did attend the end of the year lunch here at Princeton. Recognize folks really hard for us. That's so this is my last meeting, 2 years, and now it is Emila's first meeting, so I'd like to introduce you to her. She is oh my gosh, she'll be a senior. And yes, I'm a senior now, but anyway, not the point.
Only 2 minutes.
Yes, she's lovely to be around, and she will be a great addition to the board. I have no doubts, and I'm excited to be trained in it. I've been letting her in our how we do things this past few weeks, and she is excited for you guys to pass on tradition. But it is senior's last week. Yay, thank you. The last week for everyone else is next Friday. So Thursday. Yep. Can you see how I pay attention after my classes? But we have spring fling this Friday for those who are at the high school. Spring sports are wrapping up. And then robotics, I think we've mentioned a few times here, but obviously they did really well. They had a few teams go to Worlds. I know the intermediate, the VEX IQ, they competed against over 400 teams at Worlds, and Team Chocolate finished 56th in engineering, and the Megabots finished 66th in art division. I'm not sure about the middle school and high school quite yet, but I know they're extraordinary as well. It's really cool to see kids do that on a world level. That's pretty amazing, and it's cool that small town Princeton is able to do that. Prom also just happened, not just happened, I guess. It's all like, what is that, a month ago now? That's crazy. But prom was fun. Dollars for scholars, again, thank you to anyone who donated or loaned/supported. I know all of us seniors appreciate the donation going into college or trades, wherever that might be. The varsity showcase is next Tuesday, 7:30 at the PAC, so concert choir and symphonic winds will be the last kind of concert to show off what we've worked on this year. And then also went to school board scholars, and the high school did the coin challenge at the high school for the inclusive playground. So we had milk jugs in every classroom, and we had kids try to get together coins. I think it went really well. I don't know.
It was about $4,000 less than the primary day.
The thought was there, but you know, at the end of the day,
Just saying, the kids are.
you know what? At the end of the day, there's much more.
Just means you guys aren't stealing out of our world.
Anyway, but I think after all that, that's all.
Before you. Some kindness to share a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Jess, and I will be next year's seniors and I'm excited to work with you. So, the school grow and contribute.
Do you have any hobbies and things that you love to do?
So I moved 2 years ago from California, so I'm kind of a little new and exploring my options. But I like, I would say I like drawing, I like reading, and spending time with my and I like traveling.
Thank you. Well, we have one more certificate to give out.
Yes, we do.
I stole it from Ben.
You should have two there, right?
I do have two, yes. So we have a certificate of appreciation for Ellie and all of her hard work on the school board. So. Here you go. And then you also received a certificate from the Minnesota School Board Association for your work. And these are just some treats to kick off college because, oh, trust me, girl, I do this. Oh,
I have a picture of the board.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Sorry, board. Gotta get up again.
you want one this soon?
It's only right. Oh, thanks, guys. Sweet.
Okay, Ellie, you're going on to where? Can you tell the group?
So I'm going to the U of M Twin Cities, Minnesota, and I'm going to major in anthropology, which is like study of humans, broadly speaking. I'm a nerd, so if you want to ask me more about it, I would love to tell you all. And then I'm going to minor in political science and Spanish. So hopefully doing something in the museum field, maybe at the Capitol, who knows? We'll see where it takes me. So thank you for
Next on the agenda, we have superintendent report.
All right, lots going on. Big agenda tonight. I wasn't going to say anything about the legislation, but it seemed that she said the Capitol. I think that you're aware just by watching the news that there's more work to be done. My assumption is that the governor will really require groups to come together, put the package into a nice little bowl that everybody has already agreed to before he'll call a special session, call that session, and then things will be in law. Typically next week and the following week, we'll have several meetings that will come out that will kind of share all the nuances related to different budget and policy decisions that make the omnibus bill. And we'll keep you informed on what that would be. We just had a policy meeting tonight, and of course, we know that when there's changes in law, that does change some of our policies. Okay, so we'll just have to stay on top of that. The one piece that it does look like will be a small help to our district budget, and when I mean small, really small, but we did have to budget for the expenses of unemployment insurance for 9-month hourly employees. That was a state mandate, and I do believe they set aside some dollars that will cover that for districts. And I don't know what that will end up being. A little bit of money, 60,000, 100,000, something like that. But of course, anything helps. We had a big meeting today for one of our big rocks, multi-tier systems of support. We've gone through a full audit to analyze our strengths and weaknesses and hopefully take information from that to improve our action plans for following years. And we have some ideas that will follow up on that. There was a reference to Tiger Care. We did have a meeting on that. We have determined that it's been a very successful program. We want to continue it. However, we are going to explore other options for a provider that will be the doctors providing that service in partnership with us and Pioneer Care. So we'll keep you posted on that. There's lots of work, and we need to do some legal on an MOU to get all that ironed out. We had our big chief, in addition to all the things that you all referenced, I don't think anyone referenced the Chamber of Commerce State of the District that we had the pleasure and honor to present to all Chamber of Commerce members in partnership with the city every year. That's an annual thing that the school district does the state of the district and the city does the state of the city. And and that was a really successful piece, and we had a lot of positive feedback. And we always try, anytime we bring people into our schools, we always try and showcase our students, just like we did with our legislative breakfast. For the chamber event, we did have some of our middle school ensembles come in and do some singing for us, and that was really nice. I know that we're all anxiously awaiting the recommendation from the community task force that's worked the last year. We're excited to hear what they say, and the board is aware that we did set a special meeting to further discuss those recommendations that will be on June 3rd. And I would ask that board members, as you're hearing these recommendations tonight, that you're writing down questions and things that you would like to see, and get those to me ASAP so that I can pass those along to our architects and engineers and financial advisors to help, so they'll have that information so that they can prepare to answer those questions on that June 3rd meeting. In addition to all of that, just because if hypothetically the board does decide to vote to put the referendum question or questions on the ballot, there will be a quick turnaround as November would come quick. And we have been meeting with some of our communications partners to develop a communication strategy on how to best get all of the information out to the community, which includes things like building out websites, building out our brand associated with that, slogan, taglines, just getting the information kind of ready to go. But we just don't have time to not have that stuff prepared. And again, this is all, I guess, in the hypothetical case that the board does make any kind of a decision to move forward with that. I do have graduation tickets for board members. If any of you need more, it's all a moot point. If graduation is outside, I think that's an exciting thing for us, especially for folks have been wanting to have that happen for many years. This is all based upon the weather, and the principal has indicated and made it crystal clear that if there's any chance of rain at all, basically we're gonna keep it inside. But if it looks like it's not, we're gonna try and do it outside and give it a go. So that's we'll see. But we'll just keep you posted whether you're going to be going inside or outside. And many of you were here back in the day when we did do it outside. So we'll keep you posted. That's just next week, right? And I know it is always kind of anxious for the families that want more than 6 tickets. We have to do tickets because that's all we can fit in our gymnasium. But if it is outside, people can bring as many people as they want. So that's a bonus. That's all I got, unless you have questions for me. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, we'll move on to item 7, approve the agenda. Somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion's been made by Melissa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Approved. Item 8, discuss and act on previous board minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Motion Is there a second? Second by Jim. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Approved. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to make, approve the consent agenda as motion by Eric Stramberg? Second by Eric Pitts. Any comments or questions? I wanted to just take a moment to recognize Steve. To our first information where do you want us?
Well, I would say that you can have one person maybe here, working the PowerPoint slide, and then we can have a chair, you can sit, you can stand. Let's do this, and seeing as no one's sitting over here. We can turn this over. Need more chairs?
What? That's nice. That's all of us. Okay, so first we're just going to introduce ourselves, and then we'll get into it. So I am Amy Anderson. I was the first one to volunteer to chair the task force. It's been fun. It's been interesting. So yeah. I'm Sue Van Hooser, and I joined Amy to chair the task force as well, but really we've had really good involvement from the people that are sitting here as well. So we'll just move on, just about who you are and I'm Marissa Dom. I am just a community member. I do not have kids in the school, but I wanted to see what the high school looked like, and so I think it was the November meeting. It was like, hey, come and see the high school. So I was like, okay. And it was this whole thing, and I did not know what I was getting into, but I found myself roped in, and it's been really fun.
I'm Jack Edmonds, a lifelong resident of Princeton, a 1968 graduate. I've been involved in the community in elected appointed positions for about the last 20 years. I'm involved and informed.
Jana Guzik, and I'm our partnership coordinator in Princeton. And so it's an honor to serve this year. So I served on other these two over the years, and this one has been exceptional. A lot of input and involvement stands out.
And Stephanie Moses, I'm a science teacher at the high school, and I just wanted to help to make the high school a better place.
Your cash. December.
we just want to thank the school board for involving the community in this very important task. The response of the community has shown a pride and commitment in continuing to bring Princeton Public Schools into a 21st century learning environment that educates every learner, preparing our students for life beyond school. We believe that the proposal we are presenting is factual and relevant based on the survey results, participant discussions, and the many hours of insight that we've had over 100 community members contribute to this project. It has been a pleasure and an honor to take this task on. We performed our role with understanding and vision in order to achieve the best recommendation to present to you. So, is a referendum needed? Yes. There we go. Yes, a referendum is needed this November, and it must address facilities needs and include the reduction of the projected deficit in the operational funds. What are the guardrails for the tax impact to the community? The task force decided that the maximum tax impact for the owner of a median value home in the district should be around $17 a month. This was discussed in two different ways, but is basically saying the same thing. So the first way we discussed it was an actual dollar amount. So we're looking at $11 to $12 allocated for facilities needs. And that leaves about $5 to $6 to address the projected operations deficit. The board can also look at this as a 2/3, 1/3 ask. Coming up with your numbers. A capital projects levy is preferable to an operating levy as the distribution is spread across all taxable properties. And for example, a $6 a month capital projects levy taxable impact raises $160,000 more per year than an operating levy. This also allows for the money currently being used in the general fund for technology to be freed up for other uses. So it's a way to move some money around. Now we understand that this proposed ask does not fix all facilities issues nor fix the budget deficit. But our request is outlined. Critical needs, which must be included, would be all of the scope 1 projects. Do we have the papers for that? The whole sheet, that information. So like when I say scope 1, we don't have that. Okay. So all of the scope 1 projects, what was needed or highly hoped for would be all of the scope 2 projects, including upper classroom right sizing, stair connections in the center core. Scope 3 items would be the locker room expansion, and this is favorable when it's discussed as a safety issue versus a sports add-on. And then the scope 4 items that were requested would be a middle school roof, the boiler replacement at the high school, and a special ed suite at the intermediates. In terms of ballot questions, the community task force felt that it was more up to the board to make this final decision, although we do have ideas about it. We have no firm stance on the number of questions presented. So there is an advantage, though, to offering one question as a matter of simplicity, including both the bond and the CPL proposal. There was also a discussion about having a 2-question referendum on the ballot, particularly in a rural area. This would allow for at least one of the questions to be asked, potentially. So there's just a little bit of thought there behind, could something maybe pass? Okay, and then we had one final idea at the end of our last meeting, to add one final question to the ballot that makes a significant operating levy request. One that in combination with a capital projects levy could raise up to $1.5 million per year for the district's operating fund. So the reason behind this, it would give voters the option to vote no on something, which maybe help us get the other question passed. And it would also demonstrate to the voters and residents the size and the financial challenge that the district is facing. And if it would pass, that would be pretty awesome too. So it's kind of a, one of those
nothing to lose. So, but that last option would be outside of the $17.
Yes,
right?
that would be
That would be
completely
like
an extra.
completely
Yep.
outside of that.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the that one? I don't know. Does somebody have that digitally that we could pick that up or?
Got the list of stuff.
Should be in that.
It's all on the website.
Are you interested in discussing that, or do you want to look at that yourselves beyond? I thought you would have those in front of you.
I would be interested in hearing, maybe like what separated those from, what separated what was the overall idea that separated the must be included in the highly hoped for? Like, how did that line get drawn? The must be included is basically the CD section, I believe. It's all of that, like it's the science room, cafe, updating the shops. It's all of that CTE section that people really feel is an addition to the community that can bring kids in. Plus, it's giving kids great opportunities for leaving high school. So I think that was the idea behind that was the most important thing that we put our money into at this point.
When we looked at the priorities that were listed from years past, that CTE part had surfaced over and over again. And so,
tier one, would it be divided? Is it the one that's divided into tiers?
yes, this one.
Of course, they have the numbers on those, but yeah, I saw one more. There it is.
That one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it would be everything, yeah. So everything from that first scope one. That big open section, yeah. And then from scope two, it was just upper classroom right sizing, so increasing the classroom size upstairs. And then the stair connections in the center court. And that really came from a student survey that we did when we involved the high school students that moving through the school was one of their bigger issues.
So that's kind of that circulation of the building, not like air circulation, but like people circulation of the building and trying to improve that in around.
Right. And then only from scope three would be the locker room, and then that's favorable when it's a safety issue when you talk about getting kids up and out of the basement and to a safe area where they can monitor. That was a good idea. And then scope four would be the middle school roof, and we had talked about finding a more cost-effective option. I think this was the option that is listed on there. The price on there is one of the higher end roofs, so there's a possibility to lower that cost as well.
As well as like live long.
That way the boiler is also on there from scope four because there was talk about using deferred maintenance to cover that cost.
Or to add that in because you probably in deferred maintenance can.
Right. So, and then the special eds. We have.
Service as well as for very large. So out of that scope one, that was approximately 32 million. That was kind of like the first tier of priorities. Out of that 2/3 piece, with 2/3 of it being from bond, what is the total dollar amount?
I think what we found was that if we're aiming for that like $11 to $12, we found that we could actually get almost all of it. All of this. Right.
There is a slide that has like, right? It should be there somewhere.
So
Right there.
yeah, I think
right?
if we were able to reduce the roof cost,
Yeah.
or add one of those projects from that scope to come out of the deferred maintenance, then
Yeah,
all of these things were able to be covered in that $11 to $12.
It's right there. It shows $12.50 a month is 50 million. And the whole works was like 46. We did everything, I think. And that was not even counting to be able to have a more cost effective option on the roof. So once we learned about that, it was like, oh, well, shoot, let's just do it. It makes a lot more sense.
So does anyone else have their head what that gives the school board like operate or the CCL? With like other slides as far as right. This is all that was next. It's on the
I think it's the next. Is it on there?
Oh yeah, that's all that.
So you get a lot more bang for your buck with the capital projects levy because it's taxing every type of property, not just owners. Which feels, to me, it feels fair. Everyone benefits from the school system, the school district. And I didn't think it was fair that people could go buying up vacation property and then just, they have the property, but they're not responsible for any of the upkeep of the community. So to me, it made sense. And you get a lot more that way for less.
Is there any concern at all that like that amount doesn't deficit, which benefit put on in the building? Like I'm just wondering if the community's thoughts were like we don't have enough to put more building, but then we might not have enough money to staff. So there isn't a way for us to just address the operational deficit. It's too expensive for the community to do. If that was the only thing that we went out for, it's too much for the community to just take care of it. So we know that anything that we're proposing at this point is just kind of a quick fix. It's going to get you to another point, but it's not going to fix it. Nothing is going to fix it. There was discussion that tacking that new section of the building on or whatever we end up doing, that could pull into the district, which brings more money in. Adding the cafe on the end, there's different ways to use that new building to generate some revenue for the school as well. So again, not something that's going to fix the whole deficit problem, but there are some things in there that will keep it going.
I think it's also important to remember that those CTE areas, I mean, even if we look at art and flat scales, and those are very old areas that need to be just based on all that these are talking about trees and technical fields, and the core of the push and helping kids go in that direction and coming out with some training. And so I think even though it isn't the operating deficit, it is a big part of making headway in that way. Yes.
Yeah. As a reference, none of their plans that they're going to present is going to solve any problem. It's going to mitigate it. It's going to make it better than it was, kind of a situation. On the operating side of things, you all hear me, I'm like a broken record, right? We're one of the lowest funded school districts in the state of Minnesota. We receive $3,000 less per unit than the average in the state. Every single year I've been here, 7 years now, with the exception of the years during the pandemic when we did get a push in of some federal stimulus dollars, but every other year, which is 5 of those 7 years, we've had a structural deficit of $3 million a year. Meaning when we start working on our budget, we project revenue and then we project our expenditures. We are $3 million in the red. So every year we've had to try and how do you bridge the gap of that $3 million every year? And every year you've done a magnificent job of being able to make some necessary reductions. So we've cut between $750,000 to $1 million each of those years, right? Which basically means we cut a lot of our support systems. We cut, and now we're to a point where there's no more support systems to cut, and we're looking at raising class size, right? And that's what we've had to wrestle with. And then the rest of the gap, you try and utilize your fund balance, which you've maintained. It's incredible that you've been able to maintain a 10% fund balance given the fact that we are so lowly funded. But we've been able to utilize that, so we dip in the savings every year. And then we've done some really smart things each year to try that have been innovative, that have brought new students into the district, that have kind of offset some of those costs. And we have a strong tradition of underspending our budget, which that helps too, but it's getting way tougher to underspend budgets than it ever used to be because it just gets tighter in our budget. Now, when you look at one of those slides up there, there's two options to get operating funds. One of the ways that you can get most of your operating funds is through an operating referendum, right? But that funding mechanism taxes our constituents probably at the highest level, just how the taxes are spread out. And this is where I think we need to honor and respect the work of the group. They were trying to balance all of these needs we had, but trying to respect the tax sensitivity of our community, that they know that the community we live in, right? And they didn't want to ask for something that just couldn't be supported, right? And every community is different, right? And there was a certain threshold based upon lots of research and surveys that they did that they felt like there's a certain amount that we can ask for in terms of a monthly tax increase. And we knew that, I mean, really, if we got to, we're talking the $17 a month, that $17 a month, if you look at an operating referendum, might get us about 1.5 to 1.75 million per year, which would be great, but that still isn't going to solve the problem. And even if you decrease that structural deficit, that does not mean that we're adding things back. That just means that we're not having to cut as much. Okay, and that's something that people need to wrestle with too on this. So, I mean, we understand that we have needs in both areas. We have dire facility needs, especially when we're trying to be innovative and prepare our students for a world outside the walls of our schools into the 21st century, right? Aligned with our Tiger Career Academies, where then the authentic, real-life, hands-on experiences, and we hear from our community that we want, that our community values the trades, right? Values career technical education. And when you take a look at our facilities at the high school, probably our worst facilities at the high school are the facilities that reflect the trades and career technical areas. Our facilities are the opposite of what our community values. And that has been a real barrier for us to, move the Tiger Career Academies work forward. Because our teachers saying, we want to do this cool, innovative stuff, but we can't. Because our buildings were built in 1960, 1964, and the education model was different back then. Students sat in desks in rows and the teachers talked at them. Well, that's not effective. That's not what our students want. That's not what our teachers want. And that's, by golly, it's not what our community wants. Our community wants hands-on, real-life education. And we can't give it to them with the facilities that we have. So, I mean, that's where it's like they tried to put a package together that was going to improve facilities, improve the budget somewhat, but you're not going to solve any of the issues. You're not going to solve the problems completely. You're going to make things better.
I did like that you included the slide in here on adding an operating levy. In terms of that, it's going to start a conversation. And I think that this question might help reasonably set the expectations for what happens if the other things do. Are we going to suddenly, get everything back that we had before? No, it's a small amount. But I think starting the conversation with this question question might be a good step. The question that I would have is, what happens if people say, okay, I'm going to vote yes on the operating levy because the money has no strings attached, is non-committed. Whereas question one, or what I'm calling question one, I mean, the building projects and the capital project levy, you have to put the money towards those things. It's very little.
So I would say, if you get something, you're gonna get something. And I think at this point, getting anything is a win. So is it worth kind of debating that? Yes and no. I mean, I think you're right. It's a great conversation starter. I think it's a great way for people to realize that, hey, this is just the start. Like, this is going to get us some things. This is going to get us everything. And by the way, we still need to do these other things. Like, you need to keep this momentum going, I think, instead of getting a new building or whatever it is that happens, and then the momentum kind of dies. And now, then we got to start all over again, getting people excited to keep going. But I think the position that we're in now, you take what you get.
Well, here's one suggestion that was made. That you can, this is you guys' decision, because you can make question 2 contingent on question 1. So like, we can have the big enchilada that we want and make question 2 like, hey, if you're feeling especially generous, you can also pass this, but you can't pass this unless you pass this. So that was something that I was like, that is an excellent idea. The danger is if someone wants to vote no, then they're just going to vote no. But we were told that there's people that are going to vote no matter what. Right. There's like 30% of people, and those are the people that are going to show up because they're just crotchety vote no types, and they will be there to vote. And so our job is to appeal to the yes voters and try to convince them, because we're not going to convince the no voters. They're just going to vote no. So having that second question as well, if you want to vote no for something, here you go, vote no for this piece. But if you make it so that they can't only vote for the little one, they have to vote for the big one, and then they can say no to the little one. It was, I don't think it was a ton. I want to say
For the add-on.
yeah, for the operating levy. It's on that slide.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head what it was.
I think you're gonna look at it like
$7 maybe.
Yeah,
the first question.
additional.
yeah, right.
The first question is basically putting a package together that we think solves a lot of the needs, but with something we think that the community can tolerate tax-wise.
Right.
And then the second question is actually asking for operational-wise, like what we actually need.
Yep.
It's on the website.
And that's a way that could be a potential way to do it. But yes, I would, that's the discussion that the board's gonna have to wrestle with at next special board meeting on all of those nuances and specifics that you are thinking about. And those are the kinds of questions that we want you to send me so that we can share with our experts so that they can bring forward. Because as you mentioned, like that capital levy and the building bond, you will have even a choice there. You can package that together just as one question. And then you just have it written there that if you vote yes on this, it's gonna help with your building bond for this project, and then it's going to assist with technology needs for that building, right? That can be one question or 2 questions, and then they're talking about a separate question that would be the operating referendum one that would bring in additional operating dollars.
So it would be.
Yeah. But it could
Another
just
$17
do.
probably.
In addition.
An addition.
Oh,
for
are
that
we,
last question.
are we doing the 1.15, the 1250? I think it's another.
No, we said 1.5.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, because the discussion was to make it more.
Yeah. That's true. So that they will hopefully jump in.
Yeah.
But you could just do the building as the first question and then the tech levy as the second question. But we swing it for the fences.
And when you look at in the capital levy project, which is the tech levy, we think that that would bring in about $750,000 that we can utilize for operations. And the way that would happen is we can utilize those tech levy dollars to pay for our technology in the district, right? That would free up our general fund dollars to use for classroom teachers and some of those things. So that would be approximately $750,000. And then if you had a second question on there, it was like 1.5 million. Then that would bring in another 1.5. So then you'd be up to what, like 2.25. That, that's starting to crack a dent in that $3 million structural deficit that we got over here.
That's 195. Does anybody have any questions? Budgets.
Yep.
I think because I can't talk anymore after this, I have one more. I think that the elephant in the room is that people think this is a tough time to have fun, and I just want to address that because there's no good time. There's no good time. So it just means good education. Maybe parent conferences are in the shops in the fall before so everyone has to go there. Some of those kinds of things that we didn't do the last time that maybe would make a difference this time in getting people to understand how much of a need this is, both in operating this building. So I probably, if I was sitting at the table, I would be looking at our goals, this is the right time, and I think for past, we have to keep sending the message, even if it doesn't pass. We have to keep sending the message that it's not going to right now. Kids are not going to go into these ways. And someone must.
Oh, you're right, though. It's all in the way we sell it. It's all in the way we sell it. We have to justify. And there's time to ask people for steps. No. Once you go down to those shops, there's a lot of safety issues as well. Because once you go down into the storage room, got those welfers, got 15 kids. And right now, this tribe, we got the electrical kids going in that storage room, because that's where their electrical little booths are. In that little area, you've got over 40+ kids. And they got cars in there, or if it's in first try where they're putting up those shacks, you don't have a way to get those kids out because they got to make paths. So there's a lot of safety that can be done on this as well.
Yeah. And that was when we did our priorities. Safety is something that gets behind. So when you think about that message going out, safety is definitely anybody else.
No, the reality is no one in this room made the rules, right? We just have to live by the rules. Sometime in history, they made the decision that school districts are the only one thing that has to go out and ask the voters for a referendum to approve any kind of funding updates for buildings and for operating referendums, right? We're the only entity that has to do that, right? And we understand, like as you said, nobody likes to raise their taxes, right? And there's high tax sensitivity, and this is the only one time that anybody gets to go vote no on their taxes being raised. If they're disenfranchised or disgruntled on anything related to taxes, by golly, they're going to come say, we know that, okay? But I mean, that's I think that's just part of it. We didn't make the rules, but we have to, this is the world that we live in, and this is why we have to go out and we have to sell it. To really talk about what do schools mean to our community? And do strong schools mean strong communities? I believe they do. I'm sure you all believe they do too, but does everyone? And us being strong will make everybody strong. And when we go out and we talk to some of the economists and the people that do study labor, and because there's huge labor shortages in our area, the number one thing that resonated with me is they said that all of your workers in all of your manufacturers in your area are the kids right in that high school, right? And we need to prepare them to live in that world, to thrive, to keep our community strong, and hopefully, have them want to stay here and raise their family in our community.
Definitely think like what Sue said, getting people in the building, because I went for the tour and I was like, this is some janky school right here. I could not believe what the teachers are making do with. The tour I went on was the old core. And I was like, this is like a prison. I mean, it's crazy. And then the fax room, like how they're doing what they do in this room with this low ceiling and like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. And then they were talking about how exciting there's all these new programs that fax teachers can do. So like, I guess Elk River has a big fancy tech high school. And they were like, oh, they have this cafeteria where the students make the food and cater, and you can rent it out for like weddings and stuff. And like, I'm thinking, this is how we sell it. We tell people we can make money off the school, like people from other communities that would come in, they would pay to rent out the facilities. And, so I think A, we get people in there and show them it's a dungeon. And B, we point out like all the ways that we could actually use the facilities to bring in. I mean, it's not probably it might just balance out the expenses, but at least it's something, it sounds positive, like you're using it to make money, as well as giving students experience. But like we could have like kids doing, how many times on the Princeton bulletin board are people complaining about mechanics and how expensive? And what if the kids could like have a mechanic shop where they're like fixing cars for low cost? Stuff like that. I don't know.
Sounds like they're gonna be on the next meeting.
I think that we've heard another committee member.
So just so this group, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've been through a few of them. Princeton, that's 4 years. Referendums are different fast. One thing I caution you, don't clutter it up too much. The need based on mechanical age stuff, I think that has to be a big part of the discussion in the public. The public, even some of the naysayers might say yes if they know the building's gonna fall down on them. That's a little exaggerating. You gotta stress those basic points. Your basic public, I think Eric can maybe confirm this on that. Which is smart, but bigger around him. It's changing because it isn't the rural farm community it used to be, but it's got a ways to go. Referendums are tough to pass. It's going to be a challenge. I'll do everything I can.
There's a committee member. Right? Okay, the task force is hopeful that the school board will make a swift decision regarding the proposed recommendation. The evident enthusiasm of the community throughout the first phase of this process is ready to spill over into the next. We are excited for the district to take the steps to move Princeton into the future. Please let us know how we can help you to reach a consensus to move forward with the November referendum and grow our stripes. Go Tigers.
So the task force knows and the board knows. Next, I alluded to this, in 2 Tuesdays, June 3rd, we will convene with one board agenda item. It's a work session only to address this topic. The board has been instructed to kind of send their questions, concerns, thoughts, anything on their mind to me so that I can get it to Ellers and Wold and ICS and any other players involved to help prepare answers to all of their questions. And yeah, hypothetically speaking, if the board had a really productive next meeting and was prepared to pass a motion to submit a review and comment to the Minnesota Department of Ed, they could do that at this very next meeting. That would allow our architects and engineers to assist us in writing and preparing something to submit to MD. If the board felt like they needed more time, and we still have time to pass a resolution to submit a review and comment at that next June meeting. So we'll be optimistic. We'll have something prepared for a motion for the board at the next June 3rd. If you're ready. If you're not, then you would have to go to that following meeting. I would advise the board that if we want to get anything on a ballot for next November, which is kind of in the timeline we've been discussing around in the task force, that we would have to be prepared to submit a review and comment by the June 17th meeting. If for some reason you chose not to, then that's at the board's discretion on how you'd want to move forward. You just won't be able to do anything for the November election season. Okay, so that's kind of the timing that we are looking at.
I have one last thing. We have Brian and Robert in the back and Todd, and they have been so helpful to the task force, and I want to thank them as well. And it's kind of now our turn to turn them over to you guys. Now you're about that. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? So much. Topic. Realizing it's really all that. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, just gonna prove the point. As you know, our categories are broken out by assigned, restricted, so start with the assigned technology and activity account. And realize that those are for the Chromebook kind of insurance where we collect money from parents who choose to opt into the program and then pay for student that figures out of it. The activity account. 500 here, 500 that's I'm not going to elaborate on those. So are we having must parents? Yes. As a parent, it's like I was like, oh, the day passed.
Okay, it is it's a little blip on Skyward. So if there's a way, like we have the blip in Skyward, but also like I look for it and I still miss it. So if that's something, second thing that could go out and like you could be a red tracker or something like, hey, if you missed it, here's your chance.
Well, and I think in Skyward, when we do our forms every year, I think it's built into that mandatory forms before you gotta click there if you want it or not, and then go to rep chat before you get your teacher's assignments. I think it's part of that at the high school. There's a spot where it's somewhere because that's where I catch it every year.
I think you agree to the technology, but I don't know that it really encourages you to do the payment. Like, I think
It might be just a good reminder to have our tech coaches send
Yeah.
Skyward to see.
Yeah. Well,
End of September.
reminders. We don't really sell the valve.
Fall season.
Yeah, we don't really sell the valve. Like, tell me how much does it cost to replace my son's Chromebook if he drops it in the bathtub? It's more than $30. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't worry.
Student.
I just sent the email to Emily. She's the one that kind of creates and assists in that enrollment process every year. And so I'll talk to her, trying to be more.
You have to look that you're gonna do it in a whole game.
Yep.
So if there's like even just a like a reminder link or something that could be sent, like, hey, if you clicked, I mean, it could be a reminder either way. Like if you didn't click it, you still have time. There's a link. So I don't know. Yeah, we just could sell it.
It's not gonna get us a whole lot of money, but I mean, yeah.
Yep.
Then we'll move on to program initiatives. This is money that is set aside in years now, but to materials. And we still have none here that are to return house. So that's some pilots. Language arts, but if you get down there, I want you to 627. That is for 6 math adoption. Now that's estimate. So, but for this year, what Jessica gave me is this list. If you have any questions, I thought we should discuss. Sign. Always sign. Staff. Staff. Estimated revenues there, buildings, grounds, other equipment, typically 30,000 there. The ISGM, the summer of 5,000. That action is from last year. We're going to do that project and P will actually end up last things to happen. So safety and security added this topic last year to this plan, and we actually have 2 of our buildings now have station started by school. This will continue that project after July 1. Buildings and grounds, they are closer to Skinster and Oklahoma. It's 20+ years old.
At first, we had a $60,000 line item here. I've moved that down to 30, thinking that maybe we might be able to have something. Not sure about that, but that's where we're gonna start. We're not in immediate need, so we can do that then. This bedroom remodel, we have this. Under student services, products, staff devices and infrastructure. Usually we have more emphasis on students, but we have the ability for a year to put a little more emphasis on our infrastructure. So we just totaled the whole money on the summary sheet here, but we have separate that shows things broken out. I didn't bring that with me tonight. Right there. Of course, the software we assigned years ago as one of our helps to be unassigned, as you can see that line, 7,000 software. Tech staffing, that was one of our budget reductions going into this current year is about 100,000 of our tech staff have 1 year. This year decision is to know what we have in front of us and that's long.
Question for tech staffing, is that something that saying we pass a CPL or something eventually, could that be paid out? Correct.
No. The software would be able to their student devices, infrastructure, all of that would be all. You would get all out of your capital fund plus your unassigned fund. And then that could sell teaching and reading materials I've been for a while as I'm going to start. If I have a pot of money, another pot of money, just kind of keep moving things.
That's cooking.
Yep. And then under other, of course, is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. I think that down by 10. Typically spread out 95,000 among the buildings. That gives us a negative balance of 280,000 on our first floor. Long-term facility needs. So I'm actually, unless you really want to, I'm not going to cover a lot of this because you've seen these projects over. Fund 6 projects are over on the side. I'm going to talk about Fund 1, health and safety, based on our 10-year plan update. And then we always have about 200,000 maintenance projects planned out through various areas of HVAC, hardware, flooring. What I also have on here share is the middle school parking lot. So the parking lot, that did last meeting. So the middle school front lot is going to be a little bit more expensive than what we have left. So we're gonna use $906,000 bond. And when I say this is really kind of a number here, it's like interest is not in this abatement bond. Arbitrage that so really the interest is very down. So we now have questions. Building fund budget is the next in the fund one, but I wanted to put it right under LTFM. So we have ended 2021 just over 3 million there. We're estimating interest of 80,000 fund, the bonds that we have. And then Jake and I did an estimate of two-thirds on the projects that we have and put in for our expenses. It's not a one-to-one relationship to the actual project that's split between the years. And of course, we never know exactly how that splits. Balance. Our revenue actually went down for 300,000 this year, so our revenue this year is 5. Our expenditures are expected to be just short of 1.9. And our current year 6 variance 15,000, so we are planning to spend into that fund balance. By about that. There is some summer school money that reserved for that. Summer, basically in 2 years, that fund balance will be gone. If we do not have, if our economic disadvantage doesn't go up, our funding will go down. And that it was trending up. You gotta remember during the pandemic, they raised your income was higher. So that is make sure that reflects a lot of our districts. The state had a statewide cap, but what ended up happening with this compensatory is that formula that there's note on that movie. What we have on this list here currently is for this year. We will not have to reanalyze and reallocate, revise the budget based on where all of our staff lands. These positions here are 20. Yes, that's what we're going to start with, but I would expect that we're going to do questions. We go through all of the staff in the year and sure we have more. It's not that our principals move staff around. Where you got to for your price. Then we gotta find out where they went. She's got lots of buckets. Right. Staff development is very strict. So they have a pretty decent balance here. $63,000. Our estimated revenue, $500,000. This plan is, pretty much same. I'd like to go all the way to the bottom, just for the total district staff development. Always for the last few years, I've had this as part of the staff development plan that the teacher that our district needs for our staff development. For staff development. Last year we had as far as our revised budgets. Didn't take as much in the charge back. I would suspect in the climate that I'm in, that we will much heavier on the charge back. Two weeks. It's restricted, which used to be an assigned, but this year goes into restricted. It's our two-month plan, and that is developed by the teachers, and all the costs are driven by that plan. And so you can see their estimated revenues, total expenses are 99. We have a negative variance there that's concerned, but they are aware of it. The line that has 70,000, it says AFTP classes. We can pull back the number of classes that offer there. Have many people taking the classes, so we may have that savings this year. I won't know that till we close, but that is one line item that they can definitely change. But I don't think any of the others are all based on salary or what they agreed to. All of the districts. Yeah, that's why I wondered.
That's an MOU with the so. Still.
We'll just skip to that gray line. Our estimated revenues as of today is about 40 million. Our estimated expenses additional. Spend staffing, some concerns with staff, family center level, kids coming next year. process. And then of course, we're reading legislative session. That's 17. As you know, we also list all of the fund balances in total. We have understand very spent a lot of that until the pandemic. But we were are at that point 3% per year. So for me, okay. We have some big expenses and some bills that we need to pay. No, I only have all of the entries up. It's something.
I think the board should just be even if you spend by 2%, that 5.1 million signed dollar amount is gonna go down significantly. It's gonna get very down to 4. And I can really then depend on how much we will want to, but when we do audit, how much we want to dip into some of these restricted dollars to offset and point the fund balance down. Those are the things you're gonna have to discuss.
And just so you're aware, not everything is dire. Our enrollment is going up because of the online piece. That will have some impact. It's much kid that's coming in April, May, they're not here a whole lot, so they're not gonna give us the full amount of the year, but I'm hoping that we'll deliver the law next fall, and then our eighth graders are because we've gotta grow our programs. Where our I did list, I have attached the changes that we made, the reductions, the ads here. We have staff coming back. The total at this point is about 800. Service. I'm only and estimated expenditures. This does not include shares all of the plans about stuff, you know, yeah. So, but otherwise, the copy of it are in there. They're excited. There's a big thing. Yeah, well, next one. That has a bit of a breakdown. I have not reviewed this yet, but I am to make sure that it's Jesus that process. They budget is built very well. The only area that is right up this there is early childhood. That is separately served later. That is early childhood. That's a thing. That's a lot of revenue. Any of the kids that are spent all sponge and to the county, we receive compensatory dollars for them and we must spend it on that program. And we also just received in community ed 40 seats for this current year, so that's $20. So, Orange Street. And then of course the last one is our debt service payment. So that's our building funds, our LCF funds, all the funds like 7. And we got to levy 5% dollars that we're required to pay. We're making sure we have enough money for that year. So that's why you see a current year of positive variances. And what we're required to pay because there are people who are late to taxes. They don't never. So that is our
I think it's. Sorry, Michelle, next time I'll come.
okay.
Often, primary, intermediate, and time.
All right, I want to put this on the board as something to consider. As you know, I've spoken to you a couple of times about our plan to extend like primary and intermediate schools and time to analyze that. And it just seemed like there was too much come, due to two reasons. One was driver shortage. Literally feel like it's impossible to find drivers. And that plus the increase in expenditures it would take, given our financial position, we didn't feel like that would be prudent of us to do. But upon further analysis, we did find that we could add 5 more minutes to the day instead of 15 at no cost. And I guess the way I think is, why not? If we can get 5 more minutes, let's take 5 more minutes. But I did not want to make that decision in isolation. I wanted to run it by you. Basically, it would keep the same start times. Start times and end times would be the same at the middle school and high school. No change there. The start time at the primary and intermediate would be the same. The only thing that would be different would be the end time at the primary and intermediate would change from 1:45 p.m. to 1:50 p.m. That's my recommendation that we do that. I entertain any questions from you or pushback on reasons why we wouldn't do that. I get it's only 5 more minutes, but 5 more minutes is something.
5 more minutes is like a whole lunch line lineup time. That's a whole walk in from one room to the next. It's 5 people waiting, like 5 minutes. Yeah, I know.
So I mean, that's I don't even know that I need you to vote. If you want to vote on it next meeting, you certainly can. It's kind of an operational, kind of, but I certainly wouldn't want to do that without getting your advisement.
I think we're all for an extra 5 minutes.
Well, I did tell our principals to move forward with that planning unless I told them differently after I spoke to all of them.
So, like, teacher's contract though?
No, nor the peers. Yes, that's sure. Because that's one of the areas.
I think it is important for us to acknowledge and realize that the length of time that teachers have worked in their contracted hours have never changed. However, when we went to tiered busing, they had less time with students. Their day was the same. So basically, they have less time with students. Therefore, they have more time where there's a variety of meetings and things that they do. But it's not going to impact. We're going to move on.
Does the extra 5 minutes just come from a slight change in the busing schedule?
I think it's just logistics. I think it's just like, I think as they've done it, they thought, well, we can probably get 5 minutes.
It's just more afternoon Skyward buses are going to be correct. So
Then we'll miss.
We're just positive attitude. It's almost worked out.
Well, I put my tongue many times during
Jason went out and drove all the routes and then came back and said how long they should take. Run and jump on.
It's very interesting. How fast you're going. I can tell that you have a different bus driver about how fast they make the loop through the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. Jason drove one day, it was like 20 minutes early, both my kids missed.
What do you don't send those alerts for 20 minutes early?
Don't say what time to start. That's what time I started.
My friend said, oh, they're really early. Let me know if you need a ride.
Hey, tuck and roll. That's how I tell my kids to pull up, get out, tuck and roll.
try next.
But I think everybody's.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
Want that action item?
We have one action item tonight, Minnesota State High School. Like to make a motion to accept Minnesota State High School.
Go home.
Motion made by Melissa, is there a second? Comments or questions?
There may be a video that they'll send me that they'll ask me to pass
Yeah,
on to
usually
you.
we have to watch it.
They have been doing it lately, so if they do. look for that.
It's a resolution, so let's vote by roll call. We'll start with Melissa.
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Karen, yes. Brittany?
Yes.
Yes.
Rich Hammond. All right. Motion passes and we need a motion to go into our closed meeting to discuss negotiation strategy. Motion's been made by Eric Minks. Is there a second? Second by Eric Stramberg. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. All right.
It is cool. Yeah, you have to drop me off at once. Sure.
Coming.
See you in a couple weeks. Yeah.
That is correct.
I'm so happy that you're involved in this.
Yeah.
Really to jump on this.
We good.
Yes. Yeah, you know, my man.
Oh, there's still.
I wasn't sure.
You know what I think? You should set a meeting with the